Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome to Slumpbuster Fantasy Football Podcast with Aris, Blakeney, Episode 6, recording here on Sunday, September 29th, 2019. Find us on all major streaming platforms. On today's episode, Aris takes a look at NFL Week 4, your league's trade market and who you should buy or sell on, and we peek at the Week 5 waiver wire. Sit back, bust a slump, and enjoy the show.
And just like that, first quarter of football is officially over. We still have tonight's game going on and tomorrow's game, but week 4 is in the books. We're a quarter of the way through the season, and then we get into playoffs, and then we have that long, dry stretch of no football. So I'm going to start something new. Let's start this out at the very beginning. Why don't you guys go ahead and tweet us at at Slumpbuster FFB on Twitter. Let us know what the best feeling in fantasy is, and let us know what your worst feeling in fantasy is, because I hate Monday night games. I want to go to sleep on Sunday, and I want to stroll into work knowing if I won or lost. Yeah, you can have an idea going into it. This guy only needs 2 points, and he usually has 700 points during the games. But I just like knowing 100% for sure if I had won or lost strolling into work on Monday, especially since I have a work league and I can talk crap to, say my boss, one of my coworkers, somebody like that. I just want to know for a fact that I won. And then Monday night comes and you're stressing all day. If you're down, you're stressing all day. If you're up and they have a really good player, you're stressing all day on Monday. It just ruins your whole day. And then you get home, that's all you can think about. So, man, Monday games suck. I wish they would get rid of them, but I actually love Monday Night Football because it's another day of football. Like, I love it come towards holiday season when they have the Saturday games like that. Oh, dang, heck yeah, we get another day of NFL football. But one thing that I hate is the thing with the NBA, where these players run the league and they force the owners to trade them away, or I just don't like it here. Trade me to this team. That's the only team I'm going to sign with, and it just handcuffs the whole league. We saw the holdout with Lev Bell. We saw the holdout with Ezekiel Elliott. We saw the potential holdout with Julio Jones, where he said that if he didn't have a new deal by week 1, he just wouldn't play. But he still showed up for all of the offseason trainings and everything like that. And then we saw the Melvin Gordon holdout, which lasted 64 days. Today he's back. Did he play? Yeah, no. He suited up, was used just in emergency situations, which didn't happen because thankfully the Chargers won. In the first half, I was sweating bullets. It was not a good sight at my house. And then now we have the, is he holding out? Is he not holding out trade demand with Jalen Ramsey in Jacksonville, which is an odd situation. He demanded a trade, then he didn't come into work on Monday or Tuesday because he had the flu. The next day he had a backache. Next day he flew away to Nashville from Jacksonville to be with his girlfriend who was having their baby, and then ultimately inactive today. So these holdouts is not something I like. It makes the league no fun because these players are holding the league hostage. I'm all for getting your money, but in the CBA, I think they should get rid of the franchise tag. That'll get rid of a lot of the problems that they're having in today's league. I don't think they'll be able to get away with it, but adding the 17th game, they might be able to get rid of the franchise tag. But now that we see another player back from their holdout, Melvin Gordon, let's kind of get into that game now. Melvin Gordon, you probably can't trust him next week either. This week, I saw a lot of people on Twitter asking if they should play him. I was telling people no, because he's only going to be used in certain situations. And then next week, they said Chargers head coach Anthony Lynn said that he's going to be on a pitch count next week as well. So Eckler's still going to get the brunt of the load, and then Melvin Gordon will work in there as well. So I think if you have Austin Eckler, you still have one more solid week of being able to play him as an RB1, RB2. Melvin Gordon, you could probably play him as your flex if you're hurting for a player or if you're in a really deep league. Shoot him in as your flex option. And then going forward, Melvin Gordon's going to be your RB1, RB2 every week. But Austin Eckler's still going to have his standalone value. Last year, he showed it as well. This year, he's proven himself to be more valuable to the team as well, to where they're going to have to get him work. So you're probably going to see him eat into Melvin Gordon's work a little bit more than he did last year, which he still had very good standalone flex value. Melvin Gordon's still going to have that RB1, RB2 value heading forward. So that's how it's going to play out. And then if you wanted to, you could try to, you probably don't need Justin Jackson, because even when Melvin Gordon was out, Justin Jackson, I mean, he had electric games, 7 rushes for 55 yards and stuff like that. So his yards per carry were pretty high. He's a pretty decent, change of pace back. But Austin Eckler's still going to have that value. Melvin Gordon is going to have, his normal value. And then keep Austin Eckler. If you wanted to trade him, go ahead and trade him. I would probably trade him right now. You could try to sell that to somebody as a RB1 high flex, don't have to worry about it type player. But definitely you could still keep him as your flex. So let's get into these games now. So let's start off. Last couple weeks we've done NFC games, but let's start off with some AFC home games. Chargers at Miami. Chargers won this one 30-10. Thank the Lord. This is one of those games where I had picked the Chargers to win, but deep down I knew the Chargers had a very, very high potential to actually lose this game. Just because the Chargers are the Chargers, and we win games we're supposed to lose, or we win games we're supposed to lose, and we lose games we're supposed to win. If you remember when the Browns went 1-31 over those 2-year span, 1-31. The one game that they won in those 2 years was, yep, you guessed it, against the Chargers. So it is what it is. But Chargers won this one 30-10. Rivers had 310 yards, 2 TDs, no interceptions. Pretty much a Rivers game. You can expect, 1 to 3 touchdowns, and anywhere from 0 to 3 interceptions, and right around between that 250 and 350 mark. Austin Eckler had a pretty decent day. He had 60 yards on the ground, 1 touchdown, 62 yards through the air, 1 touchdown. And then Keenan Allen, I mean, he's still going to be the number 1 receiver in the league, but he only had 48 yards. So if you played him in a standard league, you kind of had to eat that matchup. If you played him in a PPR, he still had 8 catches. So I mean, he still had a decent game, but it's what you get with Philip Rivers. He tends to spread the ball around in matchups you think that are going to be crazy, and then you fixates on one person in another game. So just hold stead for this. Like I said earlier, Eckler is going to be flex. Keenan Allen, you can still put him as your wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. And the Rivers, you could still start him, every week. Definitely in 2 quarterback leagues as well. And we're not going to get into Miami players. Devontae Parker was the one Miami player to score, but I still just don't think in your right mind why would you own a Miami Dolphin player, because it's a rough year for them. Next game, man, this was my upset of the week. I felt good, and then I felt bad, and then I felt good, and then I was like, they're the freaking Bills. Pats went to Buffalo, won this one 16-10. Bills almost won. I wish they would have won, because I would have looked like a freaking genius, because I was the only person in my pick'em pool to pick them. And now I know why, because Patriots they're the Patriots. They're always going to find a way to win. Brady had 150 through the air, no touchdowns, and 1 interception. I know this pissed off a lot of people because they were playing him, but the Bills' defense the last 2 years has been really good. So kind of expected that. Sony Michel had another kind of crappy game. He only had 63 yards on the ground. He's trending towards your, RB2, RB3 flex options, not really necessarily the number one running back like he was last year where he had a breakout year. James White had 1 yard on the ground and 57 through the air. Strong flex still moving forward. Edelman, he was hurt, banged up, so they probably didn't use him as much. 30 yards. Josh Gordon had 46 yards. Philip Dorsett had 10 yards. It's just what you get with players from New England. You never know who's going to get it. This one was their defense pretty much ran away with the game for them. So, yeah, it's rough owning Patriots players, especially their running backs, because Brandon Bolden, their 5th string special teams playing running back, had the rushing touchdown. I swear Bill Belichick hates freaking fantasy football because he is always screwing people over. And on the Bills side, Josh Allen had 153 yards, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions through the air. He added 26 yards and 1 touchdown on the ground. Left the game with a concussion. He's going to be in concussion protocol, so that'll be something to look forward. Look at going forward. Matt Barkley did come in to try to win the game. He did pretty good, 127 yards, but he did have a costly interception at the end of the game. Frank Gore, though, 109 yards. If Devin Singletary is still out next week, Frank Gore is a strong flex option. Or if you're really hurting at running back, play him as well. He's shown he can, hold the load. He had a touchdown last week, 100 yards this week. So he's going to get you those 10 points. But you know what? He passed 15,000 rushing yards on his career, becoming the 4th player in NFL history with 15,000 rushing yards. He's only 200 yards behind Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders it is. So he could definitely catch that and move into 3rd all-time on the rushing list. And, yeah, he's going to go into the Hall of Fame, even though he doesn't have the ring. His stats speak for itself. And then receiving-wise, Beasley and John Brown are the only ones to really have in this offense. Beasley had 75 yards. Brown had 69 yards. They're going to be your flex options. They're not going to be, number 1, number 2 receivers on your team, but definitely in the flex conversation every week. Next game, this one was pretty exciting to watch. I had the Colts winning. Unfortunately, they lost this one. Raiders won 31-24. The pick 6 that Jacoby Brissett threw late in the game decided the game for them. Even though they tried to come back, they just couldn't fight back from that. Derek Carr had 189 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Josh Jacobs is still, if you're still chasing that week 1 game, it's looking like that might be a fluke going forward. He only had 79 yards on the ground. And then Waller had 53 yards. He's still going to be, an every week tight end. Carr seems to trust him, seems to be his go-to guy. And then Tyrell Williams is going to be another flex option for you. He had 36 and 1 touchdown. Jacoby Brissett was working without his number 1 guy, T.Y. Hilton. He was out for the game. Brissett had 265, 3 TDs, and that aforementioned pick 6. Marlon Mack had a terrible game. He only had 39 yards, and that's really about it on that team. Jack Doyle did have a touchdown. He's not really going to be a streaming option. Eric Ebron seems people still want to stream him, but I'm staying away from him. He had an day. He did drop a couple balls, but that's really about it. T.Y., once he comes back, he's going to be wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, and flex. And then Mac, tried to trade him away. He's injury prone. Hopefully he has a big game next week where you can try to get some value for him. or trade him to a Colts fan that really wants him like I did. Nope, that was a lie. I traded Ty to a Colts fan, but that Colts fan did make a trade for Marlon Mack because they really wanted a Colts player on their team. Don't be that guy. Next game was a pretty fun game until the Browns started to run away with it. Browns went to Baltimore, won the game 40-25. Baker, had his bounce back game. People were calling. They were also saying that this was Rex Ryan's game because he should be credited for Baker doing so well in the game. And then they came afterwards and said no, but Rex Ryan. There was that. Rex Ryan said Baker Mayfield was overrated. Baker Mayfield came out and said, if you don't wear brown and orange, your opinion doesn't matter. And then today on the pregame shows, Rex Ryan was wearing, yep, you guessed it, brown suit with an orange tie. This is the pettiness that I am here for. I love this. I love watching all this. I love watching the AB saga still go on Twitter. I'm all for this pettiness. It's hilarious. I love it. But Baker went bounce back game, 342 through the air, one TD, one pick. Chubb, I've been waiting for this game from this guy. 165 on the ground, 3 touchdowns. Could have had a 4th touchdown, but they pulled him after game was already in hand and his backup had a touchdown. That's happened to me twice now, where Dalvin Cook a couple weeks ago had 3 touchdowns, and they yanked him for his backup to score a touchdown, and I could have had that. Landry, if you held on to him or played him, especially in your flex, you loved it. 167 yards. He does have a concussion, so watch that throughout the week. OBJ, tough week for him. Only had 20 yards. It seemed like he wasn't really in the game script, but he did have a beautiful pass. I forgot how good this man's arm is. He had a couple of them in New York, but the receiver ultimately dropped it today. And then Ricky Seals-Jones is going to be waiver wire captain this week. He had 82 yards and a touchdown. I'd probably avoid him unless you're in a deep league, because I think this is going to be more of it's going to be a fluke. We'll just say that. But on the Ravens side, they had their first turnovers of the year. Lamar Jackson had 247 through the air, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, and he added 66 on the ground. So he's always going to add to his numbers with those rushing yards. He had 120 last week. He had 66 this week. So that's a huge benefit for you. Essentially, those 66 yards wiped out the 2 interceptions. Mark Ingram had 71 yards on the ground. No touchdowns, though, unfortunately. And then Andrews, just stay with me on this guy. He's going to be the receiving leader on this team. He had 31 yards and a touchdown. Get rid of Hollywood Brown. Andrews is going to be the receiver to own. Willie Snead also had a garbage time touchdown, but I doubt anybody's having him on their team unless you're in like a 15 or 16 or 14 team league. You can pretty much leave him on the waiver wire. Next game is Christian McCaffrey at Houston. I mean, it's pretty much how this offense is going to go. Panthers went to Houston, pulled this one out 16-10. Kyle Allen had a day to forget. 232 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, and 3 fumbles. Last week, Juju was saying that there's a quarterback controversy brewing here in Carolina. I don't think so, but it seems like Kyle Allen's going to get the start again next week with this multi-week foot injury from Cam Newton. So maybe by the time Cam Newton's ready, if he has another game like he had last week, there might be a quarterback controversy, but this week just proves that Cam's still their guy there in Carolina. I think he's still better. But we'll see. Hopefully Allen doesn't have another 4-touchdown game, because then it's going to make it really tough for Carolina. Christian McCaffrey had 93 yards on the ground, 1 touchdown, and then 86 yards through the air. So that's why I said this is Christian McCaffrey versus Houston. But, man, did Christian McCaffrey have a beautiful freaking catch. Just 3rd down. Kyle Allen threw it a little bit in front of him. He tipped it, ran towards it, tipped it again, dove for it, caught it, got the 1st down as well, slid for the 1st down because nobody touched him, and Christian McCaffrey Man, this dude is good. I hope he gets that thousand because that would be awesome to see 1,000 rushes, 1,000 rushing yards, 1,000 receiving yards. And then the other two options on this Carolina team, DJ Moore had 44 yards, and then Greg Olsen had 5. So bit of a fallback game for Greg Olsen, but he's still a weekly option just because they do rely on him. Except for today, they forgot the man. Deshaun Watson had 160 yards through the air, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, but he did add 12 yards on the ground and a touchdown, so fantasy owners can rejoice from that. Carlos Hyde had 58 yards on the ground, 6 through the air. Duke Johnson had 56 yards on the ground, 22 through the air. Yeah, avoid this backfield at all costs. I don't like it. I just don't like this backfield at all. I'm gonna stay away from it. I hope you guys stay away from it unless there is an injury. Then pick up the single guy, but let your other players get it. And then Will Fuller and Kenny Stills, they're going to be your boomer bust flex guys. 24 yards for Stills, 23 yards for Fuller. They're going to be largely matchup based or injury bye week replacements if need be. But then DeAndre Hopkins, this is his second week. He's had lackluster games, 41 yards receiving. And then you hate to see this. He threw an interception on a gadget play in the red zone. I don't know why they would do that. So you're looking at 2 points in standard fantasy football games. That is not what you want from arguably the best receiver in the league. Man, though, this next game, one, it made me extremely happy because I hate the Broncos. The other side of me was really excited because I am all for Minshew mania. Gardner Minshew is here to stay. I want to see this man throw the ball over that there mountain. I want to see him throw the ball a quarter mile. I loved the Uncle Rico skit that they had earlier today on the pregame shows. It was pretty hilarious. But this is the quarterback controversy. I don't know what they're going to do when Foles comes back. He's designated to return. I think he come back week 9 or 10. I know it's 8 weeks, but I don't know if it's from week 1 or if it's 8 weeks from when you get put on. I'll have to research that. But man, Minshew mania, they're going to sell out of fake mustaches there in Jacksonville. He had a comeback. He won the game for this team. They seem to rally around him. They love him. He was hobbled there for a second, but pushed through it. And this guy does not skip leg day. Minshew had 213 yards, 2 TDs, no interceptions, and he's the GOAT. Tom Brady is no longer the GOAT. It is Gardner Minshew. I love this dude's swagger. I love watching him play. It's fun watching him play. Leonard Fournette, though, if you had him, congratulations. 225 yards on the ground, 20 through the air. Unfortunately, you didn't have a touchdown, but don't hog all the fantasy points because 225 yards is good enough for you. So sit down. D.D. Westbrook is no longer this team's number 1 receiver, but he still had a good day, and he's still flex worthy. He had 66 yards. DJ Chark Jr. finally got his name right. I'm sorry for the first week where I called him Clark because I thought there was a spelling mistake. He is this team's number 1 receiver. It looks like Gardner Minshew is more comfortable throwing to him under pressure than any other receiver on the team. He only had 44 yards, but he had a touchdown negated. He also had 3 other red zone targets, so that's what you like to see. He's going to have, the big games. This is the guy to own in Jacksonville. And then Flacco, I mean, he's turning into Eli, where we're kind of, talking about him being washed up. He had 303 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, but it just doesn't seem like, he has it anymore. It just seems like he's just out there, like Jay Cutler. Lindsey had 53 yards on the ground, 7 through the air. Freeman had 16 on the ground, 34 through the air. I would stay away from this backfield as well. If you have Lindsey, you could try to trade him, but I don't think anybody's going to really try to trade for him unless somebody is really running back needy and you're heavy on running backs. But I would try to stay away from this backfield. Noah Fant, a lot of people are starting to still key on him just because this tight end position is so weak. But he had 31 yards and a touchdown. That's pretty much what you're getting out of the. That's a really good week for the tight end position, just because tight ends are so volatile. You're either gonna have a huge game like Austin Hooper, who we'll talk about here in a second, or you're gonna have one catch for 1 yard. But the other two receivers, Cortland Sutton, 62 yards, 2 touchdowns. Emmanuel Sanders, 104 yards, no touchdowns. These guys are going to be boom or bust, matchup-based receivers, wide receiver 3 flex options. I don't like them if they're your number 1 options or number 2 options. I would try to trade for somebody or watch that waiver wire. But definitely strong flex options going forward. But yeah, I'm glad the Broncos lost because I don't like the Broncos. I hate that the other 2 AFC West teams won. But we have the Broncos next week, so I get to talk crap to all my Bronco friends because that's fun to do. Brian, talking about you, buddy. Maybe we should do our normal bet. Maybe not. I'll talk to you. So let's get into the NFC home games. Thursday night game, Philly in a must-win early in the year, especially the way the Cowboys' schedule has panned out to where it's been so easy for them. They're probably going to be 4-0, facing nobodies, really. And then, oh, God, Cowboy fans are obnoxious, but Philly fans are probably right there with them. Philly, though, did win this one 34-27 in Green Bay, where Green Bay probably should have ran the ball on the 1 yard line. But you have Aaron Rodgers, so I understand why they threw the ball, but that's why you run the ball, because crap like that happens where the ball pops up and you get picked off in the end zone. Wentz had 160 through the air, 3 TDs, no interceptions. Did you start Howard? Because I don't think anybody else did. I know in one of my leagues he's on the waiver wire, but this man had a bomb game. I know I said Miles Sanders was going to take over this backfield, and then this crap happens. Now it's looking like he's not going to take over this backfield. Howard had 87 on the ground, 2 touchdowns, 28 through the air, and another touchdown. Yep, you counted that correctly. 3 touchdowns on the day for Jordan Howard. And I think I saw a stat that showed he was only started in 7% of all fantasy leagues. So if you're part of that 7%, congratulations. If he was on your bench, I'm sorry. But other leagues, I know he's only owned in like 70% of fantasy leagues in Yahoo. So he's going to be a favorite waiver wire target, but I think this is just a fluke. Sanders had 72 yards on the ground. Oh, and this tight end position, guys, I don't know what to do with the tight end position anymore. Ertz supposed to be the freaking truth, and he only had 65 yards. Him and Goddard need to switch up their numbers, because Goddard had a touchdown, and I was cheering because I thought it was Ertz because they both look alike. But it wasn't. It was Goddard. And then Alshon Jeffrey, you kind of like to see this because Wentz last year was allergic to throwing to Jeffrey. And now he's actually starting to throw the ball to him. He only had 38 yards, but he did have a touchdown. And then Rodgers, man, he might not be the greatest quarterback of all time, but he is the best quarterback of all time. I think he plays the position better than Brady does. He had 422 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and added 46 yards. He's he can manage a game like the best of them, but when it comes down to it, man, he can sling that thing like crazy. But you know what? This backfield, as much as I love Aaron Rodgers, this dude hasn't had a decent backfield in a while. They try to use a receiver as a running back for a long time. But, Aaron Jones had 21 yards and a touchdown. Thoughts and prayers go out to Maddox and Jamal Williams. Both of those were some nasty hits, man. Ooh. But I was projecting Williams to start eating into the workload of Jones. But, hey, Jones has the backfield to himself to try to establish himself. And then Devontae Adams had 180 yards. He does have turf toe, though. Does say it's nothing serious, but it is something to keep an eye on. If he does sit, look for Geronimo Allison and Marquez Valdez-Scantling to have bigger games. And then Jimmy Graham had 61 yards and a touchdown, and he also dropped a touchdown because he tried to do Sports Center top play and catch it one-handed, where he definitely could have gotten two hands on the ball and actually caught it, and then they would have won the game. But they lost. So catch the ball with two hands, guys. Not everybody can be Odell Beckham. How do we talk about this next game? Because I don't know if Atlanta is terrible or Tennessee is good. Can somebody tell me? Because I have no idea. Tennessee ended up winning this one 24-10. And I still don't know if Tennessee is good or bad. I don't know if Atlanta is good or bad. Mariota had 227 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, added 22 yards on the ground. Derrick Henry had 100 yards rushing, no touchdowns. And then A.J. Brown played like a man today, 94 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Corey Davis showed up to play as well, 91 yards and a touchdown. But I still don't know if they're any good. I know A.J. Brown could be considered a lower-end flex option. Corey Davis, this is probably just a fluke game for him. Derrick Henry's still going to be an RB2, RB3, option. But I don't know if they're any good or not. Because watch some of their games and let me know if they're good. Watch some of their games and let me know if they're bad. Because I have no freaking clue with these people. And same thing with the Falcons. Matt Ryan had 97 yards through the air, no TDs, no interceptions. Devontae Freeman, you could probably get rid of now. He only had 28 yards on the ground. Julio Jones had a terrible game, 52 yards. But Austin Hooper had the Julio Jones game, 130 yards through the air. But I still don't know if any of these people are good or bad. I know Julio Jones is good, but I don't know if the team is good. I don't know if the team's bad. This game is very complexing. So let's just leave it there. I know Julian was texted to our group earlier that the Slumpbuster pod is 0-8 when guessing on Tennessee games. So if we think they're going to win, they're going to lose. If we think they're going to lose, they're going to win. So, I just don't know about this team. So let's just move on to probably the most exciting game of the day. Chiefs at Lions. This was a fun game to watch. Lions almost won this one. They were on watch or upset alert pretty much the whole day. Patrick Mahomes had 315 yards through the air, no touchdowns, no interceptions, and then he added 54 yards on the ground. And this man is just playing with the league. He had a run, I think it was about 20 yards, where he mid-stride looked all the way behind him and was just mad dogging the ref that was behind him. I'm pretty sure you've seen the picture on social media because it's turned into a meme now, but this man is so good. He's just like, yeah, mid-stride, I'm going to stare at the ref like, what's up, dog? So, he's going to be the best quarterback in the league for 10 years, and I got to deal with freaking this guy. Ugh. Got rid of Manning. I was happy, but now we got freaking Mahomes. I feel really bad for Philip Rivers. I'm sorry, guy. Shady McCoy, though, 56 yards on the ground, 1 touchdown, 33 through the air, and he had a beautiful pitch and run. Mahomes threw the ball to Kelsey. Kelsey was thinking about pitching this thing before he even landed on the ground from catching it. Pitched it back to Shady McCoy, and bam, 30 more yards up the field into the red zone. McCoy wins. So, it was pretty wild game. Pretty fun game to watch as well. Darrell Williams, though, had 13 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, 43 through the air. I don't know if it was injury related or what, but it seemed like in the second half, it was in the second half, Williams was more used than Shady. I don't know if they were just doing this for maintenance or if they just were going with the hot hand who Williams was at the moment. If Damian Williams sits out, Darrell Williams we'll still have some flex consideration next week. He had 2 touchdowns today and 50 yards. That's pretty good output. Kelsey, 85 yards. Watkins, 54 yards. Robinson, 35 yards. Yeah, I just don't know which Chiefs player is going to blow up because it could seem like it's any of them at this point, especially in that offense. Andy Reid is pretty creative, but we're going to come up on that Andy Reid wall where he, throws everything out the first couple weeks and then everybody catches on and then they can actually defend it a little bit better. Matthew Stafford, though, came into the game questionable, and this dude is a trooper. 291 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Kerryon Johnson, 125 yards on the ground, 32 through the air. Marvin Jones is going to be a strong flex option, 77 yards through the air. Galladay, still going to be wide receiver 2, 67 yards and 2 touchdowns. One of them a little questionable. That was a very questionable touchdown there towards the end of the game. But the guy we got to talk about is TJ Hawkinson. He did have 27 yards and a touchdown, but I knew this was going to happen. Everybody in the league and their moms are starting to hurdle everybody for no apparent reason. He went to go hurdle somebody on a routine catch, got his feet knocked out from him, and landed headfirst and was out cold. And I mean out. This dude laid motionless for a couple seconds. Then he started to move back around. But this is why we need to stop hurdling in the NFL. Yeah, it gets you on Sports Center. Yeah, but look what happens if you miss. You get knocked out. He's going to be in concussion protocol for about a week or so. It did not look good. So, people, let's stop hurdling in the NFL. And Danny Dimes. This dude's the truth. Huh? Yeah, he's the truth. Washington lost this game 3-24. And we finally got to see Dwayne Haskins. Case Keenum had 37 yards through the air, 1 interception, and got pulled after he missed a wide open receiver. This guy had nobody for 5 yards around him. Could have walked it. Could have army crawled into the end zone. Got pulled after that play for Dwayne Haskins, who came in 107 yards through the air, no touchdowns, 3 picks. Little rough game for him, but he added 23 yards on the ground and a touchdown. So congratulations to him on his first NFL touchdown. Adrian Peterson had 28 yards on the ground. You can throw him away. Really no receivers to talk about. McLaurin's probably going to be the only guy, but he was hurt for this game, didn't play. Danny Dimes, though, had 225 yards through the air, 1 TD, 2 interceptions. But he looked good. Everybody seemed to have juice finally, where with Eli, it was just like, meh. Goldman, though, playing for the injured Saquon, had 63 on the ground, 1 touchdown, 55 through the air, 1 touchdown. If you have him, enjoy him for a month, but then guess what? Saquon comes back, you can throw him back on the waiver wire. Shepard and Ingram are probably the only 2 receivers still to own. Shepard 76, Ingram 54. Good news is Golden Tate, the Yak monster, comes back next week from suspension. I would probably swoop him up because this dude has led the league last 3 years in yards after reception. So that's good news. They'll throw him a 3-yard slant and he goes to the house. So there you go. Upset, I guess, this next game. I think only 3 people picked him in my pick'em contest that I do weekly. Bucks won 54, surprising, to Rams 40. Yeah, this was a very, very shocking game. Every time it came on the red zone, it was, what the heck is going on? This is what I expected from Jameis all year. under Bruce Arians. He had 385 through the air, 4 TDs, 1 interception. Ronald Jones had 70 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Peyton Barber had 19 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Ronald Jones is starting, let me say that again, starting to take over the backfield. It's still more of a committee than I would like for any of these two guys, but if you have a spot and you can hold him, pick up Jones. They're starting to use him more. He out-touched Barber, outgained Barber, outplayed snap-wise Barber. Both of them still had a touchdown, but hey, Jones, you might be able to get him on the waiver wire, maybe even for free after waiver ends. So look for him to start taking it up. And then Chris Godwin. I laughed when I saw this dude going in the second and third round in mock drafts because I was like, why the hell is Chris Godwin so damn high? This is why. The man had 172 yards, 12 catches, and 2 touchdowns. I thought Mike Evans was supposed to be the number 1 receiver in this team, but nope. Guess what? Chris Godwin. Mike Evans did have a touchdown today where it just seemed like the Rams forgot to play football for a play. He had 89 yards and that touchdown. If you have O.J. Howard, I am so sorry. He put up 0 points, 66 yards last week, and then a whopping 33 this week. Yeah, if you have him, I'm sorry. I would drop him and try to find somebody else or try to trade him to somebody that's dumb enough to take him. But, yeah, you can get rid of this guy. Goff, though, he had 68 attempts today, which I believe is 4th highest ever in the NFL. 517 yards, first 500 passer of the year, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and a fumble to seal the game for Tampa Bay to win. This was returned for a touchdown when the game was 48-40. So this put the game away for the Bucs. Todd Gurley still is, I'd stay away from him. He had 12 touches, 70 total yards, 2 touchdowns, but I don't like the touches from him. For being as highly drafted as he was, he's trending towards just a flex option because 12 touches on the day is not very good, especially for a top running back. And then the trinity for these guys: Robert Woods, 164, Cooper Kupp, 121, and a touchdown. Brandon Cooks, 71. Woods and Cooper Kupp are going to be, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. Cooks is going to be your flex option going forward. Cooks is going to be more boom or bust. I do like Kupp better than Woods just because Cooper Kupp and Goff seem to be on the same page more often. But I'd still play pretty much all 3 of them. Next game, Seahawks at Cardinals. We're not going to talk about Russell Wilson again because I've already done this a couple times. 240 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. This game was terrible to watch. 104 yards for Chris Carson. Disley could probably be, on the map now for weekly tight ends. 57 yards and a touchdown. Tyler Lockett, unfortunately, because the game was so out of hand, they really didn't need to do anything. He only had 51 yards. DJ Metcalf had 6 total yards, but he had 3 red zone looks. So he's still going to be, a low floor flex option because he's still getting red zone looks. You want that in the NFL, which means he has more of a possibility to score a touchdown. But just if you do play him, remember his floor is going to be extremely low, almost a 0 weekly floor. On the Cardinals side, Kyler Murray had 241 through the air, no touchdowns, 1 interception, added 27 yards on the ground, and a touchdown. I don't like Murray. If you want to play him, go ahead. But I don't like this I don't like this offensive line, so that 4, I don't like him. David Johnson, though, had a decent game, 40 yards on the ground, 99 through the air. And let's take a moment. Larry Fitzgerald, congratulations, my man. Had 5 catches for 47 yards today, but he is now second all-time in receptions. This Hall of Fame career, only thing it's missing is the ring, just like Frank Gore, but numbers don't lie. He's going into the Hall of Fame. I do think he'll be a first ballot Hall of Fame, whereas Frank Gore might have to wait a couple years. But Larry Fitzgerald, Frank Gore, congratulations on the career days. Not necessarily number-wise, but career achievement days for you guys. Next game is a master thief versus a master defense. Kirk Cousins and Minnesota Vikings went to Chicago with the 1930s throwback jerseys, which were actually pretty cool. I still like their navy and orange ones that they do with the throwback, but these ones were pretty cool. Minnesota lost this one ultimately 6-16 with a garbage time touchdown to not be shut out. Kirk Cousins had 233 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. At this point, he is killing many people's careers, many people's fantasy years. I don't know if you can bench an $84 million quarterback, but it might be trending that way. Dalvin Cook had 35 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Like I said, garbage time and 35 yards through the air. This Bears defense might actually be the best in the league. I thought they were going to take a step back, but they've held steady for the first couple weeks. Stephon Diggs, this guy, 108 yards. He did have a fumble, but he was on my bench, so I could have used those 108 yards. Thielen had 6 yards, so this Vikings offense, the only person you can truly trust week in and week out is going to be Dalvin Cook. Only reason why I can say that is because he had the garbage time touchdown. But on the Bears side, there is big news. Mitch Trubisky had 9 yards through the air, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Left the game, which what I thought was going to be a head injury, but turned out to be a left shoulder injury. You'll have to monitor that going forward. But Chase Daniel, who I always thought it was Chase Daniels with an S, but it's just Chase Daniel, came in 195 yards, 1 touchdown, no interception. So, he's probably one of the most experienced backups in the league, especially sitting behind Drew Brees for, numerous years. David Montgomery had a decent game, 53 yards on the ground, 14 through the air. Allen Robinson, probably the only receiver you could trust on this team, 77 yards. And then Tariq Cohen, 11 rush yards, 7 receiving yards, and a touchdown. This week was really almost uneventful for fantasy purposes. There was no big injuries, which I like to see because I'm always remembering that these are humans. You have to respect them. You can't just go out and yell at them, berate them. They have feelings. They have families. They have actual bodies. They're not just names on an app. So relatively light injury day, minus the Mitch Trubisky, Josh Allen injuries. So really, there's not going to be a whole lot on the waiver this week. So let's get into that. But let's first start with some trade calls. Trade away Devontae Freeman. He's not doing too good. Trade away John Ross, especially if he has a big game tomorrow. You could sell him pretty high, especially since AJ Green is coming back. And then I would still trade away Stephon Diggs. I don't like the roller coaster ride that this Vikings offense is on, especially with the low volume throwing floor that they usually have. This is the 1 week that they actually decided to throw the ball this year. So I would get rid of those 3, and I would trade for AJ Green if you can. He's going to come back and be another receiver, another top 10 receiver. He might take a week or two to get back into game shape, which is always a little iffy. So once he does start playing, I'd probably bench him in the first 2 weeks or maybe even just flex him the second week that he plays. Trade for Austin Eckler. Those owners might be like, oh, Melvin Gordon's back. He's not really a value. But last year, he still had standalone flex value. This year, he's proven even more that he can have that value and be a flex option going forward. And then this one might be, very hard to pull off. But if the owner of Saquon is hurting for running backs, especially, you might be able to make a deal for Saquon and just sit on him if you have the ability to sit on him. But heck, give it a call. Call up that owner and see what they would take for him. All right, so now let's look at the last part of the podcast, waiver wire. So next week on bye weeks are Lions and Dolphins. You're not going to be hurting with any Dolphins players, so really just Lions players. So Galladay, Marvin Jones, Hawkinson, who's going to be hurt, Stafford, and Marvin Jones. Those are really going to be the only 5 that you're looking for to get replaced. But quarterback-wise, Jameis, you might be able to pick him up. He has a decent matchup next week. He might have a load of confidence going forward as well. So if he's there, you might want to take a flyer, especially on a bye week quarterback coming up in the next couple of weeks when we have a lot of people on buys. You might be able to get ahead of that, that mass grabbing of quarterbacks. I'd probably put about 10% down on him. Sam Darnold may come back next week. Still uncertain. They said he's not a lock, but so I would put about 5% down on him, and you might be able to stash him. But they play Miami again coming up. They have a decent schedule moving forward, so look for him as well. Darrell Williams, I'd put about 5% down on him, and then you just have to watch all week if Damian Williams comes back. Make sure you grab Darrell Williams, D. Williams 31, and not Damian Williams, D. Williams 26. It's terrible. I don't know why they always do this crap with the same names and positions. It's terrible. But Darrell Williams, if Damian Williams is still hurt, I'd put about 5% on him. Jeff Wilson Jr. from 49ers. They're coming off bye week, so a lot of people might not remember him from 2 weeks ago, but he is the goal line back. He has vultured 3 touchdowns already in 2 weeks, so hey, go with him. I'd put about 5 to 10% down on him. Same thing with Frank Gore. He's shown last week he had a touchdown. This week he had 100 yards rushing. If David Singletary is out again, he has shown he can hold the load. I'd put about 5 to 10% down on him as well. Golden Tate is an interesting one receiver-wise. Some people have picked him up already, drafted him, and then held on to him, but he's going to come back, yak monster. He's coming back from suspension, so if you look up by stats and stuff like that, he's not going to be anywhere on the list, so you might be able to sneak him under everybody's radar. I'd put about 10% on him just because going forward, he's going to be a pretty good he was really good in Detroit. I loved him there. Didn't fare too well in Philadelphia, but Philadelphia uses their receivers very oddly. So look for him. He plays for New York Giants now. Daniel Jones actually has some life into this offense, so that's a good sign as well. A.J. Brown, you might have to put about 15% down on him, but he's going to be very matchup dependent going forward. And then Tennessee and Philadelphia, they both have favorable matchups next week. I'd probably put about 3 to 10% depending on your leagues. I'd put about that down on those guys. But that's going to be it for us. The Sunday night game is still going on, so we can't really break that down. But it does look like New Orleans is going to pull off the victory tonight. As always, follow us on Instagram, Slumpbuster Podcast, Twitter, Slumpbuster Pod, and Slumpbuster FFB. Look for us on the website, theslumpbuster.com. We do have our weekly fantasy rankings. We have our weekly power rankings as well. And then Sunday mornings on Twitter, we're always there looking to hand out advice. We also can do trade calls during the week. You want to try to send us your trade requests for advice as well. Until then, like, subscribe, listen, share, tell your buddies, tell everybody about us. As always, continue to talk crap to your fantasy mates because that's what makes fantasy football so much fun. Yeah, so let's have an awesome week and 3 more quarters of football, guys. So let's enjoy this ride we are on. Y'all have a great rest of your night.